Today. Welcome back to Weekend Edition. This is Rehash, where we recap the big stories of the week. And it's what everyone was talking about all week. It was trending, had its own hashtag. Isa, let's talk about FestPac.
FestPac. Okay, well, FestPac was so much fun this week. I went around to a bunch of the different venues, and no matter how many events I go to, I just feel like it's not enough, and I'm not covering everything. I feel like I'm missing out on so much. But some of the coolest things that I saw this week were, first was the tattooing. So I saw, interviewed some tattoo artists from New Zealand, the Maori tattoo artists. So they have their traditional tattooing, which goes back generations. And you can actually book a tattoo at their hut at the Festival Village in Hagåtña. I also spoke with some Samoan tattoo artists from there at the Second Cultura. And what's really cool is that the Samoan tattoo artists use their traditional means of tattooing. So they have this kind of hammering method where they do it by hand and they tattoo your skin, but it's a lot faster than machine tattooing. And I'm not sure if you can book there. You might be able to, but there are lines of people that are just waiting and watching. So check that out at Second Cultura. Another really cool thing I saw was seafaring. So of course the event kicked off with the opening ceremonies with all the canoes coming in. And I actually spoke with a master navigator from Lamatrek, which is an island in Yap. And they sailed all the way down here, and they were saying that they revived the art of weaving the sails right before FestPac. This 90-year-old woman, she was on her deathbed, and she kind of just, right before she died, she taught 15 other women from Lamatrek how to build a sail. And so they did that, and then 2 weeks later she died. So they presented that to University President Dr. Robert Underwood, so you can see that there.
That's cool.
Very cool. So Ken, I guess that's the best segue I can do for you.
Yeah, it's been over since 2014 when voters passed the medicinal marijuana measure, and this week they kicked off the public hearings for it. So 2 were held, one in Derrida and one in Sinahania, and they continue next week. We spoke with Andrea Pellicani. She's a big medicinal marijuana advocate, and she's the president of Women Grow Guam, and is part of this Guam grassroots organization regarding medicinal marijuana. And she, along with several others, they were raising a lot of concern, mostly about like the fees, the need for home cultivation, the rights to policy, and adding more medical conditions. Because I think there's about a dozen or so medical conditions that would qualify you to use medicinal marijuana, but she says others like diabetes or HIV or depression should be added onto that list as well. We're just getting started because there's 2 more meetings. I think the next one is May 31st at the Santa Rita Senior Center, but she says we all need to take part in this because we voted for it and we don't want to see a program that starts and it's set to fail from the beginning. So she wants everyone's input. So yeah, we'll have more about that coming up.
Speaking of everyone, the Gov Guam. Let's talk about debt.
Yeah, Public Auditor Doris Flores Brooks made a presentation or a speech before the Chamber of Commerce, and I was just a little bit surprised at the numbers that she was throwing out. $1 billion here, $1 billion here. Pretty soon you're talking about a little bit of money. But she talked about the government's assets and liabilities. $1.9 billion in assets, $1.7 billion in liabilities. But what she was focused on was the deficit, and she said that's at about $871 million. And that doesn't include the unfunded liability of the Gov Guam Retirement Fund, which is about $1.3 billion. So we've got quite a bit of debt. But on the revenue side, Gov Guam does rake in about $1 billion a year, $700 million in taxes, and about $300+ million from the federal government. So there's good news and there's bad news. And so she gave the kind of the fiscal health of the government of Guam, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Okay, myself, I covered two big stories, I think. Christopher Rafin, you may remember him. He was the veteran firefighter who was arrested for DUI with injuries. He was driving just outside our Harmon Studios when he struck a girl who was darting out into the road. And so earlier this week, he did enter a plea for a violation of imprudent driving. And this is not a criminal offense, so this is a pretty good deal for him. He has no jail time. Again, this girl, she darted out, it was dark. None of the other cars behind Mr. Rafin were able to see the girl. And the defense maintained that the girl was actually the drunk one, and that she was the one trying to get hit. So he will only have to pay about $1,000 in restitution to the family, to the victim's family, but no jail time for him. That's good news for him. Again, he used his skills as a firefighter to keep her alive until medics were able to arrive. And so she was hospitalized, but then later released. Also, Guam Live. I wanted to end on a good note. Good note, get it? Okay, so Guam Live is this weekend. Super excited. Guam's own Pia Mia Perez, before she became Pia Mia, She will be headlining a lot of other acts, almost a dozen acts from all over the Pacific. And for anyone who who's not on the fence about going to Guam Live, you'll want to go because all the FestPac delegates have got a ticket. So that means our Rapa Nui boys and our Cook Islands boys will also be in the house. They will be there. Each of them gets a ticket to Guam Live. Again, that's this Sunday, May. This Sunday, May 29th. Buy your tickets at guam-live.com. And if you want any of us here at KUAM to cover anything, email us at reporters@kuam.com.